People that quit their job in a hilarious fashion, how did you do it? Story 1. I used to work for a telecommunications company. My mom was very sick over the last 3 months of her life, so I had to go home most weekends to see her. It's a 6-hour journey to get from where I work to the town where I'm from. When her birthday came around, I requested a couple days off that I had saved for the specific occasion. Yet the days off were denied because we were approaching a busy time of year for sales. At this point, I hadn't mentioned what was happening at home because, well, I was always taught that you keep your work and personal lives separate. But I said to my boss, who at the time I saw as a pretty compassionate person, she never took any issue when I got sick or was late for whatever reason. But when I told her, she just looked at me point blank and said, "I don't want to hear this." After that meeting, I went back to my desk and sat there for 20 minutes thinking of a solution. The solution was to get my things and just leave. I said goodbye to my friends on my way out, flipped my boss off, and just walked out. I went straight to my car and drove back to my hometown that night. It was the best decision I had ever made. I got to spend all my time with my mom before she went. We even got to go on a vacation and spend one last week away together because I had the time to do so. I'll never, ever regret walking out that day. Not exactly hilarious, but I had a good chuckle to myself on that drive home. The look on my boss's face will never leave me. It was sweet. Story 2. Worked as a teller at a bank for a few years. GM and supervisor were both kind of crappy in their own ways. My buddy there was also a teller who felt similarly and wanted to get out. We started applying to places and both got interviews at the same company. As luck would have it, we both got hired and got phone calls about 10 minutes apart. There was only one other teller aside from us, and when it got busy, supervisor usually had to jump in as well, and usually hated it. It felt like we were constantly short-staffed, and days when one person would call out sick or be on vacation would suck. Being down 2 people was the worst. Naturally, when we both got hired, it became a race to see who could turn in their 2 weeks' notice first. He printed off his and raced into the GM's office, walking out with a big smile. GM calls me in and offers me full-time hours after I had been requested them for months. I jumped in saying, "Let me stop you right there. I'm also turning in my 2 weeks' notice." Remembering that look of disbelief will make me smile every time. A solid professional FU is just as enjoyable to me as going out with a bang. Story 3. 1992. I was 19 and worked at the most piss-ant radio station imaginable, AM Country Gold. The notoriously cheap, abusive, and dishonest owner, a fellow named Wes, had just screwed me out of a promised bonus. It was the latest in a long line of dishonest acts, and I had enough. The rest of the sales team was afraid to stand up to Wes, and he screamed abuses at them constantly, except the lone woman who he sexually harassed. They were all in their 30s and 40s working the same garbage job I was, but desperately needed it. I did not. So I engaged in a very public shouting match with Wes in the lobby, saying all the things everyone there had always wanted to say. Then I swept up the contents of the front desk onto the floor and stormed out. Instead of leaving, I went around to the side of the building to a payphone and called the radio station request line. In a fake southern accent, I said, "Hey, y'all, I just told my cheap, no-good, lying piece of human garbage boss to go to hell. Play me out. Take this job and shove it, and dedicate it to my former boss, West." The disc jockey had no idea what just happened in the lobby or that my Wes was the Wes, so he enthusiastically played my recorded dedication and added, "This one's for you, Wes. Choke on it, you sack of crap." The building had speakers inside and out constantly playing the radio feed, so I got to hear Wes get clowned by his own radio station before driving off into the sunset. Story 4. I used to work at a place that rhymes with Pizza Hut, and the managers there were real cheapskates. There was this nice old man that would come in every Sunday and order a triple extra cheese pizza, and while they charged him for the 3x cheese, they would forbid us from ever actually putting that much cheese on a pizza because apparently cheese in the pizza selling world is akin to gold. So instead of 3 times extra cheese, he would really be getting what the instructions would qualify as barely enough for a regular cheese pizza. On the day my 2 weeks notice ended, the old guy just happened to be my last order, so I went to the walk-in and grabbed an entire box of cheese, proceeded to dump the entire thing onto his pizza and toss it into the oven. It was stacked so high that it couldn't fit into it, and half of it was scraped off. Anyways, the look on the old guy's face when he saw me do this made it all worth it. Imagine pure excitement. Needless to say, I didn't put the correct phone number down for the future job references. Story 5. A guy from my work years ago came in high and the boss figured it out. She brought him into the office to fire him with a cop to escort him out. For his final stand, he came real close to her face and said, "In a world of darkness, where you carry the only light, I still wouldn't follow you," and left. Story 6. I knew someone who worked in a really shitty call center. His boss never had time for anyone. When he went to tell his boss that he was leaving, the boss waved him out of the room as he was on call. So he wrote "I quit" on a post-it note, stuck it on the boss's screen, and just walked out. Story 7. I was working for Argos as a Christmas job while studying. After a while, it was becoming too much as I had to stay and work until deliveries were unpacked. This meant that some days I was leaving for college at 8:30 a.m. and not getting home until 1 a.m. that night. One night it was a particularly large delivery, and it was getting very late with no end in sight. I decided I'd had enough and told the supervisor I was finished, didn't want to do the job anymore, and wanted to go home. He rejected this and said that I was going nowhere until the delivery was unpacked. I stood in front of him and repeated that I quit, therefore I don't care about the delivery. Completing my studies was more important to me than earning an extra bit of cash. He still said I was going nowhere and refused to unlock the door to let me out. Despite feeling I had a case for false imprisonment, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I ran out of the fire escape door and down the street, never to return. I always remember the sound of a fire escape door making a big dong as it hit the metal railings, and I made my escape to freedom. Story 8. Hey, boss man. Sorry I haven't been to work the last 2 days. I'm helping my fiancé plan for our wedding. Anyway, I wanted to let you know I found a new job with the stage, so I'll be starting there in 2 weeks, basically when I get back from my honeymoon. Yeah, timing's great, right? Anyway, I need to give my 2 weeks notice. Also, we're really getting into crunch time right now with this wedding planning, and she really needs my help. I need to take the rest of this week off. Also, I think I might have forgotten to reserve the time, and I'm sorry for that, but I need to take next week off for the honeymoon. So, yeah. So you're giving me your 2 weeks notice 2 days late, and you're telling me you won't be in for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I guess so. Can you think of a reason why I shouldn't fire you right now? Well, because you'd have to call corporate and have them cut me a check and ship it out today. Sigh. Fine. Have a great wedding. My wife, meanwhile, skips 2 days at her shitty call center. The HR manager calls, asking if she's okay. I'm not sure. I think I'm having a vision problem. A vision problem? Oh no. Are you okay? What kind of vision problem? I just can't see myself ever going to work there ever again. Story 9. I had a part-time student job in college as a music director in a small church. Everything was fine until they hired a new minister who preached long, annoying sermons in which he either condemned gay people or talked about the evils of birth control. I finally couldn't stand it anymore and told him, as I handed in my 2 weeks' notice, that his 1 hour hearings reached the point where the ear can only absorb as much as the rear can endure.